Tonight, when the screen turns off, the same thing is going to happen. You will be left alone with a feeling that is hard to name. It is not sadness, it is not anxiety, it is something more subtle. As if there were a door inside you that has been closed for years, and someone were on the other side, knocking very softly. During the day you are functional, correct, adapted. You know what to say. You know how to behave. You know which parts of yourself to show. But when silence arrives, when no one is watching you, when there are no stimuli, something else appears. A thought you did not ask for. An image that does not fit your identity. A desire you do not know where to place. And you do what you have learned to do your whole life. You push it down. You cover it with distraction, with work, with social media, with irony, with self-control. But tell me something honestly. Since when has it been so hard for you to be alone with yourself? Because there is a psychological truth that almost no one wants to hear. What makes you most uncomfortable about yourself is not what you have. It is what you have had to repress in order to be loved. I am not talking about morality. I am not talking about vices. I am not talking about the forbidden. I am talking about identity. I am talking about that part of you that is not strategic, that is not polite, that is not coherent with the character you built. The part that does not think, it feels. The part that does not argue, it reacts. The part that does not ask for permission. Your body knows it. Your mind tries to tame it. And that is where the conflict begins. Because sexuality, even if it has been reduced to pleasure, is something else. It is vital energy. It is life impulse. It is the most direct way your unconscious has to express itself. It is not only about who you sleep with. It is about how you desire, what moves you, what excites you, what scares you, what makes you feel alive when no one is watching. And that zone is the most censored of all. Not because it is dangerous, but because it is honest. Too honest for a world that taught you to be acceptable before being authentic. From a very early age, you learned something without anyone explaining it to you. There are parts of you that are better hidden. Maybe it was a look, a mockery, a correction, an uncomfortable silence, an unspoken rule. But your nervous system understood it quickly. What I feel is not welcome. And when something is not welcome, it does not disappear. It goes into exile. That is where the shadow is born. Not as something dark in a moral sense, but as something unrecognized. Your sexual shadow is not only what makes you feel ashamed. It is also what you never allowed yourself to feel freely. The tenderness that seemed like weakness. The intensity that seemed like excess. The surrender that seemed like danger. The curiosity that seemed like sin. The need for contact that seemed like dependence. All of that was pushed into the basement. And the problem with the basement is that it is not empty. It is alive. And what lives in the darkness looks for a way out. But it does not come out clearly. It comes out distorted. It comes out as compulsion. It comes out as apathy. It comes out as fantasy that leaves you empty. It comes out as relationships that start intense and end cold. It comes out as guilt after pleasure. It comes out as disgust after desire. It comes out as a double emotional life. On the outside, you may seem stable. On the inside, there is a constant tension. One part wants, another part judges, another part controls, another part hides. You live fragmented. And the worst thing about living fragmented is not the conflict. It is the exhaustion. That existential fatigue that sleep does not cure. That feeling that everything costs more than it should. That impression of living only halfway. Not because your life is bad, but because you are not whole in it. And then something very interesting happens psychologically. You begin to look outside for what you do not allow yourself to feel inside. That is called projection. Projection is one of the most sophisticated mechanisms of the unconscious. It is when you cannot tolerate a part of yourself, so you place it in the other. That is why you fall in love with people you do not understand. That is why you obsess over someone who does not fit your logic. That is why what destabilizes you attracts you. That is why what excites you later scares you. You do not fall in love with the person. You fall in love with the symbol. That person represents something you do not allow yourself to be. Maybe they represent freedom, maybe surrender, maybe vulnerability, maybe dominance, maybe softness, maybe intensity. And for a while, you feel like you have found something special. But in reality, you have found a mirror of your exiled part. And mirrors are not made to last. They are made to show. That is why so many relationships start like fire and end like emptiness. Because it was not a meeting between two people. It was a meeting between your ego and your shadow. And when the other stops representing your fantasy, when they start being real, human, imperfect, the spell breaks. Judgment appears. Distance, sabotage, emotional escape. I do not feel the same anymore. Of course, because they no longer serve as your reflection. But projection does not only work as idealization, it also works as rejection. There are people who make you deeply uncomfortable. They seem too much, too sensual, too free, too direct, too intense. And you tell yourself it is because of values, because of principles, because of maturity. But if you look honestly, many times it is fear. Fear of recognizing that what you criticize also lives in you. Judgment is a defense. Repulsion is an alarm. You are not seeing the other. You are seeing yourself without permission. And that is where shame appears. Shame is not feeling that you did something wrong. Shame is feeling that there is something wrong with you. And when your desire mixes with shame, an internal fracture occurs. You desire, but you hate yourself for desiring. You seek, but you punish yourself for seeking. You give yourself, but you emotionally withdraw. You get excited, and then you feel dirty, empty, disconnected. Not because desire is the problem, but because desire does not have a legitimate place in your identity. It was never integrated. It was only repressed. And what is repressed is not regulated. It is distorted. That is why compulsions appear, not as an excess of pleasure, but as a lack of awareness. You are not obsessed with pleasure. You are obsessed with what you cannot feel with presence. You look for stimuli that wake you up, but do not commit you. You look for intensity without intimacy, contact without vulnerability, excitation without integration. And every time you do that, you move a little further away from yourself, because the body wants one thing, and the mind responds with control, guilt, or distraction. And that is how the double life is built. The life where you are correct, and the life where you are secret, the life where you are a character, and the life where you are impulse, the life where you are acceptable, and the life where you are honest. And holding two identities is exhausting. It is exhausting to filter every thought. It is exhausting to control every emotion. It is exhausting to desire without being able to look yourself in the eyes. It is exhausting to fake stability when inside there is tension. That exhaustion is not physical. It is existential. It is the body saying, "You forgot about me. You forgot to listen to what you feel. You forgot to name what you desire. You forgot to integrate who you are." And here comes the most important part of all this. The sexual shadow does not want to destroy you. It wants to return you to yourself. It does not want to dominate you. It wants to be recognized. It does not want you to obey every impulse. It wants you to understand what it symbolizes, because every non-integrated desire is an encrypted message, a message about an unmet need, about a wound that was not heard, about a part of you that was left without a voice. And integration is not surrendering to desire. It is sitting with it. It is looking at it without moralizing it, without judging it, without acting on it automatically. Asking yourself, what part of me wants to express itself here? What emotion is underneath this impulse? What need is asking to be seen? Sometimes it is contact. Sometimes it is validation. Sometimes it is tenderness. Sometimes it is power. Sometimes it is freedom. Sometimes it is simply feeling real. But since you never allowed yourself that directly, you looked for it through twisted paths. And here comes the most uncomfortable question of all. What version of yourself did you have to manufacture in order to survive? The strong one, the rational one, the correct one, the spiritual one, the independent one, the cold one, the ironic one, the self-sufficient one. And what version of you was buried underneath? The sensitive one, the intense one, the curious one, the bodily one, the vulnerable one, the desiring one, the child, the animal, the human. Integration hurts because it involves grief. Grief for the parts of you that could not exist. Grief for the masks that no longer serve you. Grief for the image you built in order to be loved. But that pain is not destruction. It is reorganization. It is stopping living fragmented. It is allowing desire and consciousness to coexist. It is stopping looking in others for what you must rediscover in yourself. It is stopping acting and starting to inhabit yourself. When the shadow is heard, it changes form. It stops being compulsion and becomes message. It stops being sabotage and becomes guidance. It stops being blind impulse and becomes creative energy. You do not become perfect. You become present. You start choosing more real bonds. Not so intense, but more honest. Not so explosive, but more sustainable. You begin to feel pleasure without guilt, to say yes without betraying yourself, to say no without fear, to inhabit your body without shame, to look at yourself without hiding. And then something strange happens. Sexuality stops being a problem and becomes a vital force. It is no longer a dirty secret. It is a conscious flame. It does not dominate you. It inhabits you. It does not fragment you. It unifies you. Because in the end, it was never about controlling desire. It was about honoring your humanity, honoring that you are a body, that you are impulse, that you are emotion, that you are contradiction, that you are shadow and light at the same time, and that the most dangerous thing you can do in this life is not to feel too much. It is to go through it without ever feeling whole. If you made it to the end, comment, "I am awake," and I will personally reply to you. And if this resonated with you, subscribe to be part of it, and leave a like if you enjoyed it.